What's going on, guys? Welcome to Everything Always. My name's Michael Roman, aka All Fires Now. While it's not the majority, there is a growing contingency within the fan base, a small murmur that's made its way now into headlines on both the Industry Insider editorials and YouTube channels alike, that Marvel Phase 4 is a mess and actually has no direction. And while I would argue it's quite the opposite, and I'll touch on that during this video, we actually have a huge Industry Insider update coming from one of our most trusted, someone who's had their own running editorial for over 2 years, very public contacts in Marvel Studios, and of course a great track record to boot, indicating that heading into Phase 4, Marvel Studios had a plan, confirmed the next major crossover as Secret Wars, and even offered up an original release date for the very first film. We're going to talk about where this is coming from, this update in full, how it affects the future of Marvel Phase 4, and how really not much has changed at all, and Marvel Phase 4 is not a mess. We're breaking it all down, but first, if you could grab the subscribe button. We do daily Marvel content at the channel, and that's all we do. Everything from official Easter egg breakdowns, trailers, and reviews, to the occasional Industry Insider scoop like we're covering today, and everything in between. So if that sort of thing's for you, hit the subscribe button, leave a comment down below. That will automatically enter you to win our ongoing PS5 giveaway. In fact, we just dinged the next milestone at 960, and we'll be announcing a brand new winner at the end of this video, so make sure to stick around for that. Okay, so jumping right into it, this is coming from Industry Insider Charles Murphy. He's the editor-in-chief over at Murphy's Multiverse, and as I mentioned in the prologue, extremely vetted, very open contacts to Marvel Studios, a great track record. This is not some anonymous 4chan plot leak and or a post on Reddit. He indicated yesterday that the original plan for Marvel Studios headed into Phase 4 was a major crossover event in Secret Wars, and even that they had a time frame to get there and release the film, that the first one would have been released in May of 2024. It also went on to indicate that that was the plan pre-pandemic, and after all of the changes that have happened to Marvel Studios, that date can't possibly be correct. Now, when I mention all of the changes that happened to Marvel Studios, it's quick to dismiss it as a one-year delay. We had 1 year of COVID in 2020. Marvel movies started coming out again in 2021. But in fact, it is much, much more than that. Black Widow should have been released in spring of 2020 and didn't come out until fall of 2021, closer to a full year and a half delay. Then, once Black Widow finally came out in September, it was only a couple of months later, right before Eternals release, that Marvel Studios had another major delay, again, as Kevin Feige put it, a change in production schedule, and kicked every movie over one release date on the already announced Marvel Phase 4 slate. And even within the last 60 days, Marvel Studios announced a switch for Ant-Man and the Marvels on the release schedule for just next year. There are still changes and delays happening in Marvel Phase 4, all because of that original almost 2-year pandemic delay, which led to characters not being able to make the cameos that they were supposed to because of restrictions, on top of Marvel Studios admitting very publicly that they had no idea which order some of these shows and movies would come out in. And for a Marvel Cinematic Universe that basically built its marquee on being the first interconnected universe this large and this connected, it would have been very, very hard for them to do it well in Marvel Phase 4 with no delay. They went from 2 or 3 films a year to 4 films a year with 4 or more TV shows on Disney+. You add the pandemic on top of that, and they don't deserve any condemning for how things ended up in Marvel Phase 4, rather praise that it's not a bigger mess than it already was. And the way that they handled not knowing which order the shows would come out in and characters not being able to make cameos was they kept it simple. They kept it insular. WandaVision wraps up at the end of the series without a long-standing impact that other shows and other heroes would have to acknowledge. Also, Marvel Studios has found a way in each one of these TV shows and movies, for the most part, to show the long-lasting effects and permanence of the blip and snap that took place during the Infinity Saga. A lot of brand new characters to introduce, a lot of new threads before you can all weave them together. But for real, the only thing that had to happen happened. What happened during Loki, when Loki and Sylvie killed the He Who Remains version of Kang and set the multiverse loose, that predicates what happens in Spider-Man No Way Home, why the spell doesn't go right for Doctor Strange, and how these incursions are now happening in between universes where before this wasn't an issue because He Who Remains was able to keep them all in check. So now circling back to this report that indeed Secret Wars is the next major crossover, there has been evidence of this over the last couple of years. I ran a story in the very early part of this year where Jim Shooter, the original writer on the 1980s version of Secret Wars, was recently reached out to by Marvel Studios trying to secure a work-for-hire contract. He was at a con down in Orlando, and what he was explaining though was even though that was work-for-hire back then, basically they paid him to create the story. That intellectual property as an artist is not him. He did it on the clock for Marvel Studios. That some of these artists, because of the lack of contracts here, have come back after Marvel Studios for the rights for these characters. Marvel is now doing diligence, going to each writer and artist, trying to make sure that they have a current work for hire in place, and even dangling checks between $10,000 and $15,000. Jim Shooter, the original writer, openly talking about this at a Comic-Con in Orlando, basically making the point that they wouldn't be doing this. They wouldn't be trying to secure all of these contracts if they weren't leading to a Secret Wars storyline. And there have been more than enough subtle Easter eggs to show it's coming, not just what happened in Doctor Strange with the incursions, but little things like Titania, the supervillain in She-Hulk. She's from the original 1980s run, gets her whole power setup from Doctor Doom leading into the Secret Wars storyline. Oh, and we have a symbiote in the MCU now who's probably going to attach to Peter Parker, because where else is he going? And that also originally happened in the 1980s Secret Wars. So doing what Marvel Studios does, borrowing all the little parts they want from the various Secret Wars runs and the characters that we've got, there is no doubt that it's heading to it. Now, there are 4 dates open on the 2024 Marvel Studios release schedule. Although they've seemed to have moved to 3 movies a year, so I'm skeptical we'll get 4 in 2024, none of them will be Secret Wars. In fact, quite honestly, if the original release was for May 2024, it could be 2026 at this point. But the longer it takes them to get there, the more characters and storylines, the more things they're able to explain in the meantime. So I am certainly in no rush. You shouldn't be either. And if you are one of the small group of the fandom who thinks that Marvel Phase 4 is a mess and has no direction, remember, even though Thanos was a post-credit scene in the Avengers, Marvel Studios admitted they had no idea where they were going in Marvel's Phase 1 through 3, and they still did a great job. So with that in mind, and trusting in Kevin Feige, knowing that they have at least some more direction and assurance of a future now than they did back then, guys, don't panic. Honestly, they did a great job in the face of the pandemic. Guys, let me know all your thoughts and reactions down below. A, are you hyped for Secret Wars, and exactly how do you think this is going to pan out? Do we get God Emperor Doom, or does it just end up being Kang as the main villain for that? And, of course, if you disagree and think Marvel Phase 4 is a mess, as long as you keep it academic, I'll converse with you down in the comments. Speaking of which, let's get into the next PS5 winner here at the channel for the 960 mark. Now, guys, we are going to keep giving away PlayStation 5s every 20,000 subscribers on the way to 1 million. The next milestone's at 980, and the way we're going, we usually hit them about every month or every other month. In fact, we just hit the next milestone yesterday or the day before, so let's announce a brand new winner for the next PlayStation 5. Death be sleep for this comment here. Whoever they bring in to direct, please just bring back John Krasinski as Reed Richards. I totally agree. Congratulations. Thank you so much for your support here at the channel. I've already subscribed to your YouTube channel. What you need to do is either DM me at IamFires on Instagram, or go ahead and email me on my business email. It's under the About section on YouTube. I'll verify your account since I've subscribed to you and get your PlayStation right out to you guys. And it's that simple. If you want to be entered to win or for any of the future giveaways here at the channel, all the same rules will always apply. Hit the subscribe button because you need to be a subscriber, then leave a comment down below. Because it's truly random, the more videos you comment on, the better chance you have of winning. All winners will be announced at the end of videos, the same way we're doing here. The best way to keep up with the content has always been to hit the notification bell with all notifications turned on. And as always, if you like today's video, I'd appreciate it if you'd hit the like button. My name's Michael Roman. You can find me in a couple of places, Instagram and Twitter at IamFires. You can also find me on Spotify, YouTube, Amazon, Apple, iTunes, wherever you listen to original music under the name AllFires. And while I'd sincerely appreciate you checking that out, thanks for checking this channel out. Stick around. We'll be posting again real soon.